The ideas that gave
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. Today's Thursday, so I am joined by the one and only Alpha Warrior. How you doing, brother? You're probably not the one and only, but you're the most prominent. So,
The one and only, baby.
nah, there's more.
The one and only.
There's more. There's more. I don't want you thinking you're special or exclusive.
I'm damn special. My mama told me I was special.
What's going on, brother? How you doing this morning?
I'm good, man. Getting
I'm
ready.
proud of you.
Why?
This is like 3 weeks in a row you've been on time to daily.
Always been on time.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what timeline you're referencing, but I've always been on time, baby.
Oh, man, I had a little feedback there. What were you saying? Sorry, man, I cut you off.
No, I said I've always been on time.
No, you were saying something else. I don't remember. Must not have been important.
Yeah, it'll come again.
All right, guys. Well, welcome to the show. Got a lot to get to. The deep state is there are suggestions. There are what would you call earmarks of a Event 201 style 2026 rollout. Have you been tracking this at all?
I have. I've gone some funny ass.
Oh man.
I'll save them for the man show.
They're laying the narrative down, dude. They're laying it, or the foundation, not the narrative. They're laying the foundation down. We'll get into that. We talked a little bit about it earlier in the week, but now we've got some updates. But before we do that, let's go ahead and jump into our sponsors, and one of Alpha's favorite sponsors right here, Pet Club.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
All right. Alpha's going to go through a spiel. There it is. There it is. I knew it was coming.
I literally was taking mine while the commercial was going on. Live by these things, man.
We've been together too long, man.
We have. Down in it with my uni city too.
All right. If you guys have not done so yet, please smash that thumbs up. And let's go ahead and jump into the story here that I was alluding to. Forbes magazine. There it is. There it is. Let's lay the foundation. Hantavirus infected cruise ship. Americans among dozens of passengers who disembarked after the start of the outbreak. The World Health Organization, dun, 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 has confirmed dozens of people, including Americans, left the ship, upon which a hantavirus outbreak has killed several people and flew home after the death of the first passenger, but before they knew that they had been exposed to a contagious and deadly disease. Here it comes. You ready for the bullet points, Alpha? We got the bullet points.
So, yeah, the title's kind of misleading for one, but I think you'll get into that.
What do you mean by it's misleading?
So, unless this is a different story than I'm reading, because it wasn't a cruise ship.
It's like it's a weird cruise. It's like a cruise ship for scientists.
Yeah, it's an expedition ship.
Yeah.
So this is not Carnival or any of these other ones. It's a very specific expedition that goes into like these remote areas where you're probably going to catch some nasty shit. So, you know.
Yeah. So that's a good point. And we talked about this when we talked about the story initially. I don't know if this was like an NGO funded operation where they just they take a bunch of scientists, or if it's like a thing where people go on like, hey, I've got $50,000 laying around. I want to go and see the remote far stretches of the planet. And then, people guide you through these areas. They do cruise ships like that. Or was it, like you said, an expedition?
The article I found was these were legit like scientists, researchers, and I'll look for that one.
That's fair. That's fair.
Sent to me amongst some other ones.
Yeah, that's fair. I think there was like 157 people on board or something like that. Well, let's get into this because this is the precursor to CNN having the death tracker and the infections, and we'll get the first, whatever. And the timeline's not too far off. A little late getting to it for the 2026 midterms, a little late getting there. But again, if you go back historically and look at election years, there's always the threat of this potential virus, whether it's Ebola, whether it's the swine flu or the bird flu or COVID or whatever the case might be. You always have these kind of emerging outbreak potentials ahead of like one of these major election cycles. So all I'm saying is that this is just laying the foundation in case maybe it's necessary. It says at least 29 living passengers from 12 countries disembarked the ship and went home after the death of the first passenger on board. Those countries include Canada, Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, New Zealand, Switzerland, Sweden, Singapore, St. Kitts, Nevis, Turkey, the UK, and the United States. The director of the World Health Organization, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, says none of the remaining passengers on crew or crew aboard the Hantavirus are symptomatic, but that, quote, it is possible more cases will be reported, end quote, because it can take up to 6 weeks before those infected with the Andes variant of the hantavirus show symptoms. And why the hell did you let them go home? If it could take 6 weeks, why were these people not quarantined? If this is, worthy enough of a long bulleted Forbes magazine expose on this, why were they allowed to go home? He says some of the passengers shared an airplane to Johannesburg with a woman from the ship who later died. And then literally 2 bullet points down, a Dutch flight attendant developed mild symptoms and is being tested for the disease after she briefly came into contact with one of the deceased hantavirus patients. An international team of scientists is, by the way, that's interesting right there. Let's pause on that one for a second. A Dutch flight attendant developed mild symptoms and is being tested for the disease after she briefly came into contact with one of the deceased hantavirus patients. Did they die after they went home? I thought they died while they were on the ship. I thought the ship was quarantined off the west coast of Africa because people died while they were on the ship.
That's how I understood it. So I'm not sure if there's they misreferenced that, but my understanding was that. So I'm on the same page with you on that one.
Well, are they implying potentially here that this person that died was infected before they went on the cruise when they were or the expedition when they were flying to the expedition? Because then that completely puts
that's a route that makes zero sense.
Exactly.
But also their title could be a Dutch flight attendant. Doesn't mean you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's just
bro. So the scientist on board the ship, and then they have the one flight attendant. I mean, maybe she's
no. I'm not saying the flight attendant was on the ship. I'm just saying that, when they said that they disembarked and they're hanging out or whatever. What I'm saying is, who knows what they're doing in the city they're hanging out with. But I'm looking for that article because actually it was very, very detailed.
Okay, well, let me keep going through these bullet points here. The fearmonger that the Forbes is putting out here. An international team of scientists is working to create a vaccine against hantavirus. Don't worry, guys. Big Pharma's already on it. Forced COVID or forced hantavirus. What are they going to call it? Like HV1? I don't know what they're going to call it, but the hantavirus vaccines that are coming. Scientists are working on it. World Health Organization epidemic expert Maria Van Kerkhove says, quote, "This is not the next COVID, but it's a serious infectious disease. Most people will never be exposed to this, except when you allow them to all roam about the country and then people start getting sick and you're like, oh yeah, take this thing, shove it up your nose. We're going to spin the PCR test at a 40 cycle threshold. And if there's any trace whatsoever of a virus in there, we're just going to call it the hantavirus. And then we're going to shut down everything, make mail-in balloting everywhere, and impeach Trump again." It's just so boring. I'm so bored with this. The number of lab-proven hantavirus cases has risen to 5, and there are still at least 3 additional suspected cases. Argentine officials suggested it could have originated from a bird watch outing. Those darn birds. Better than the bats, I guess. I mean, just so ridiculous, man. Just so ridiculous. If they think we're going to fall for this again, I don't know, man.
I don't think I actually don't think anybody will they think that. It's just they don't know how else to report. It's fearmonger.
Yeah.
Fearmonger makes headlines, which generates revenue. I don't even look at this from like a nefarious deep state perspective. I look at this as a corporate business. This story is going to generate tons and tons of revenue.
I wonder how long until, the talking heads on CNN and MS Now are talking about potentially having to put masks on temporarily. Yeah, I guess we probably need like a couple cases to be put out there. Again, I don't think the people are not going to fall for this. This is absolutely not going to work again. And you know what the crazy thing about this is, Alpha, is there are legitimately like dangerous things out there that could happen, and the more they cry wolf with stories like these and the more light gets shown on them. I mean, obviously they never went as far as they did with COVID, but they've tried this historically.
But we also now have the tools to deal with those scary things, and the only reason those things were scary to begin with because we didn't think we had a way to, they hid the medicine that cured these things, and now we all know about it. Oh, it's a parasitic. Oh, it's this. Oh, I got that. No sweat. I mean, the big C word, I know we're on YouTube. The big C word is no longer scary. You can get diagnosed with that in stage 4 and beat it.
I didn't know there were stages.
No. I'm talking about the
cancer.
C word.
Say it.
We're on YouTube, and I won't get a nasty gram from John.
I'm not going to censor because of YouTube. I'm not going to censor. We're on Facebook. They're worse than YouTube, and I'm not going to censor because of that.
No, I heard Facebook's been showing love, dude.
Well, I don't know, man.
I'm telling you, I've pushed the envelope, and I've heard from some friends that are going like they're just going right, and they're finding it's YT, man, YT out there just.
Well. Let's keep our eyes on this and see how much more they continue to push this whole, thing here. Yeah, that's all I got on this.
Look at it. It's always perspective, right? So look at it from the perspective of what if it's not the bad guys pushing this story? What if it's the good guys? What if they want to measure the population, humanity. Have these people learned? Are we ready to move to the next stage, or are these people still capable of being controlled by media? And they could be out there monitoring social media, monitoring podcasts. We know they have the means to do it.
I don't know if I'm going to go as far as white hats, and I'm not a fan of that term in general, but I mean, putting a story like this out there to see what the public's reaction is going to be could be the litmus for them whether or not to continue pushing this or not. And again, the World Health Organization is absolutely crippled right now. And you're also going to see some of these media outlets coming out and now railing on President Trump because he withdrew us from the World Health Organization, right? They no longer have any control. Not that they should have ever had any control, but they no longer have any control over the United States because Trump said, get the hell out of here, withdrew their funding. Now they're desperate. So you'll see, like, if an outbreak does emerge like this, it's going to be even more exaggerated than the COVID one, because they're going to blame Trump now for taking the World Health Organization's funding away, and therefore they're not in a position where they can combat something like this happening. So
are they going to be able? Do they even have the means to make it more of a story than before? Because he's cut off. We know that the funding through change from USAID, so they don't have that. The funding through the NGOs, the funding through the National Endowment for Democracy, like all the channels that they had available to them during COVID so that they could run this perfect operation to get this information out there. They don't have that anymore. And maybe their intent, let's just say, was the bad guys, and their intentions was to do this. They don't have the means that they did, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever the math is on that, to do this again. And this is, and maybe this is their wad, and it doesn't get any bigger than this.
I think I'm going to go more with the first point you made, that this is a revenue generating thing. And also it's a double-edged sword for them in a good sense. It's a double victory for them because they're going to get the revenue from a story like this, the clickbait. But also, if there are legitimate hantavirus cases, granted it doesn't expand into anything, but if these cases do turn out to be legitimate and there's a little bit of a fear about it, or if they even do go full-blown hantavirus, let's start considering the COVID draconian apparatus again, they'll be able to say, we were way out in front of this. We published this in May, right? So otherwise it just goes away. Nobody thinks about it. Nobody's like, oh yeah, remember when Forbes tried to push the hantavirus thing down our throats, and the World Health Organization, the BBC, and these other outlets came out and said it. It's kind of like, they're hedging their bets on this. They're going to make money one way or another off the clicks. It's also stupid, man. I think we're kind of immune to that. We've been inoculated against these bullshit stories. I just like to laugh at them. And that's what I did this morning. I literally read that story and laughed at every single bullet point. I'm like, that was COVID. That was COVID. You're a little bit behind. You're by about 3 months, but that was COVID. That was COVID. Yeah, screw it.
I did the same thing when the first person that sent the article to me. I was just like, well, right on time for midterms, baby.
I'm checked out. All right, let's get into this story here from Just the News. Blue state gerrymanders are in the legal crosshairs for violating civil rights. Must comply, Dillon says. I called this. I said, you're going to see, we've been talking a lot about the red states in the Southeast, right? The Floridas, the Georgias, which Georgia's refusing to do it, but the Louisiana is obviously the subject of the Supreme Court case. Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. We've been seeing those states do it. I don't think North Carolina is going to do it because for some reason they had a supermajority in the legislature, and two, I think they have 2 Republican senators, but somehow they have a trifecta in the state government of Democrats with the governor, attorney general, and secretary of state. But anyways, following the Supreme Court's decision in Louisiana versus Calais, other states that have used race as a predominant factor in gerrymandering are now under the microscope of the DOJ and will possibly be vulnerable to lawsuits and future redistricting mandates before the midterm elections in November. That is fascinating because, I mean, if that's going to happen, we got to see it moving at light speed because they are about to go, full blown into the primaries here. A lot of states have already begun. Dillon signaled that the DOJ already anticipates legal action, saying, quote, some states have race in their constitutions as a requirement in districting. That's now illegal. So the field is ripe for legal challenges, not just by the DOJ, but by private plaintiffs, candidates, and others. That's a dog whistle right there. calling on them to get active. 10 states have enacted their own voting rights acts that explicitly prohibit racial vote dilution and allow or effectively require race to be considered in determining whether minority groups have been denied a fair opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. Equity, not equality, guys. The states that have enacted this, the state voter registration voting rights acts are California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Maryland, Minnesota, New York, Oregon, Virginia, and Washington. Notably, Alpha, California was the first in 2002 and amended it in 2015. Illinois was second in 2011 in the middle of the Obama terms. All the other ones were post, except Oregon. All of the other ones were post Trump one. During or post Trump one. All of them were, in fact, because Oregon was 2019, Washington was 2018. It's almost like California kicks off the whole thing. This is like the voter compact, the popular vote pact. This is like the CARB Act, where all the states get on board with California. It's like they're the de facto Washington, D.C. of the blue states of America, you know.
It's such a large state with such a large population that once you push it, the trend for the blue states is always going to follow.
Yeah.
Which is why I hope you're getting into that Second Amendment story today.
I am not, but if you want to get into it, we can. Which one?
The alluding to what the Supreme Court's probably going to rule.
Oh, on the AR-15s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we touched on that briefly yesterday. At the end of the show, if you want to get into it more, pull it up.
If you already touched on it, you're good.
It's all speculation. I'd rather I'd rather cover it when it actually happens. I mean, we saw the ATF, you know, the 34, I think it was, deregulations that are coming down, but I still think they're woefully inadequate. I still don't think anybody has touched on Bruin. Nobody has touched on.
Oh, no, you're 100% right. But the speculation I had, because, you know, I was covering this heavy because of what, you know, I was hoping that this resolution would have happened during that 21 to 24 time frame, right? Because this was the direct charge in my case. And the way I saw it was when, for those that don't know, the large capacity magazine and the quote unquote assault rifle are, you know, here in California, made its way to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court kicked it back because they said, hey, Ninth Circuit, given these decisions that we already made, you guys should be able to fix this yourself. And so I said that put California in a awkward position, because if they fight it and they go to the Supreme Court, they're going to lose. The precedence is already there. They're not just going to lose. They're going to get laughed out because of the very reason it was sent back to them. So if California fights it, California, especially the AG, is going to look like this is the guy that ruined it for all the states that were trying to ban assault rifles. So California had us, okay, we submit to this and we just reverse course on this here in California and recognize that these laws are unconstitutional. And we're done, and it'll only impact California, and all these other states like Washington will have to fight it on their own and go through that process. And I said, or they already know that this is going to come down the chain and they're just going to wait for the Supreme Court to force it. So this way, no AG or governor has mud on their faces. They're the blue state that ruined it. And it looks like that's the actual scenario that's going to play out here.
Dude, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Was it the Ninth Circuit where you guys had the appellate judge that came into his chamber and was like disassembling like all these handguns and like going through and like doing a firearms class in his chambers?
Yes, that was one of the Ninth Circuit judges.
Yeah, that guy's based his.
Yeah, him and the one that got the ball rolling here is I only know him by Saint Benitez because that's what everybody calls him. But he's a federal judge out of San Diego. And he's one of the most unrecognized patriots in our movement, especially if you're someone that's, you know, constitutionalist. That guy is based, bro.
Did you see my post on Twitter today, aimed at you, on X, aimed at you? I don't think I tagged you in it. I should have.
No, so I haven't jumped on the social media windpipe just yet.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for you to say like, you know, an extended period of time, but
we're in the middle of a war.
I should make you read this. I really should make you read this. just because you brought up the constitutionality. Read that post at the top.
Just zoom in just a little bit more for me. All right, from Mandy Arthur. So make sure you follow Mandy Arthur. Hey, Grok, if the U.S. Constitution was a person, which current representative would it be? Very concise, just the name.
What's Grok's response?
Grok, Rep. Thomas Massey. He consistently votes against bills expanding federal power beyond enumerated constitutional limits, prioritizing individual rights and fiscal restraint over party lines. No one matches perfectly. The document isn't partisan, but this record aligns closest on.
We can end it there. I was just, I know you invoke the Constitution, so I just wanted to get in there.
Listen, Thomas Massey absolutely aligns with the U.S. Constitution. I've never made an argument that he doesn't. The argument that I've made is he only chooses to do it to go against President Trump.
That's not true.
It's not. So Did he support McCarthy and Biden in raising the debt ceiling higher than it had ever been raised? One time, because there were guarantees that were made in that, which he immediately was like, they reneged on those. So then by definition, you're not a constitutional absolutist. Well, he conceded his principles.
Oh, we're going to have this debate.
If I came out and I said, okay, just this one time, censorship's okay because there's these other guarantees coming down the pipeline, you would be pushed back on me. They'd be like, hell no.
Hold on. Censorship is a direct First Amendment violation. A continuing resolution is just a dereliction of the duty of Congress. It's not a violation of the Constitution.
Against his principles.
Against principles, not the Constitution.
Those principles are based on him being a constitutionalist. That's the foundation.
Correct. But if it's not, what McCarthy proposed was not a violation of the Constitution. So the principle is not.
That debt ceiling is coming from what money?
What?
That debt ceiling that's getting raised is coming from what money?
Oh, no, from the taxpayer. I agree with you.
And if tax is stealing?
Well, it's a 16th Amendment. We'd have to repeal that.
Well,
so until then,
we can go all the way back to what's the original Constitution. And the ultimate argument we get to is it's not constitutional.
I agree.
And if Thomas Massey is a constitutionalist, he knows what I know and you know, which means he should have that fight. But he's not. Again, he's not an absolutist.
Disagree. But let's jump into this story from the Gateway Pundit. Yesterday, huge victory in Georgia. The federal court has ruled that the FBI does not have to give back their documents to Norm Eisen and Abbe Lowell and Chairman Rob Pitts and all the other I hate to use the word Marxist, communist, whatever, because it's kind of played out, but to all the deep state swamp in Fulton County, they were victorious here. The judge says that they did not reach the burden of callous disregard in the Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 41G motion. It goes on to say the judge said that the court finds that petitioners have not shown that respondents' alleged interference with principles of state sovereignty that demonstrates a callous disregard for their constitutional rights. The judge did note that portions of the affidavit were quote unquote problematic and in some instances misleading, but he ultimately concluded that the warrant included both inculpatory and exculpatory information, stating that the affidavit Special Agent Evans presented to the magistrate judge had facts that both hurt and helped them. Quote, this is not a situation where an officer left out all of the facts that might undermine probable cause or where an officer intentionally lied. This court acknowledges that the events leading up to this case are, in a variety of ways, unprecedented. But the Ritchie test has been in place for nearly 50 years, and its limits apply no matter who the government is investigating. To apply the law differently here because of what this case is about or whose records are at issue would, quote, defy our nation's foundational principle that our law applies to all without regards to numbers, wealth, or rank. And then let me just click on this right here. Holly Kessler, who was on the show last week, put this out with the conclusion right here. And let me zoom in on this and read the conclusion itself. This court acknowledges that the event leading up to this case are in a variety of ways unprecedented. That's the Ritchie test that we just read. As explained in this order, each of the factors, including the first and most important, callous disregard, weighs against this court's exercise of jurisdiction. As such, petitioner's amended motion for return of property pursuant to 41G is denied. I love to see that, man. Huge victory. Everybody's been kind of sitting on the edge of their seat. Like, is this going to get shut down before it even begins? And the judge has said, carry on, my wayward son, investigate away.
Listen, you and Ash and the few others that have covered these stories, I think we'll have the biggest vindication parties when these elections are secured. The biggest ones. The biggest ones. Anytime, I'm always in these virtual town halls, and anytime people get there, I'll provide them my surface level understanding of these things and in my theories. But I tell them if they want to get the most accurate information on what's been going on with the election crimes and investigations, I always tell them, go watch Why We Vote. And I tell them, just remember they've gone a little black pilled. So no matter what they tell you, you got to go vote. No matter what, you got to go vote.
People not to vote. I've never said not to vote.
I want to address someone in the chat. It's not a bad thing. They just said, why is the rewind thing off? Sometimes that's Rumble. And they're doing updates. So, to understand that too. But for the other channels that turn it off, and a lot of people don't understand why, a lot of audience members complain that shows glitch or they pause or they freeze and they complain about that. And when you do that direct pass through where you can't do the rewind, it mitigates that. So a lot of content creators do that for that purpose. So it's not that people are like, I don't want you to rewind. Of course they want you to be able to. It's just a production question or decision to make it a better viewing experience for you guys. So just a little insider information there for those of you that didn't know.
All right, let's go ahead and hit a sponsor, and then we'll get into, we've got just one more election story. Asawavana. All shows are Why We Vote now. But just one more election story. But let's hit a sponsor here real quick. All right, chat, real talk. If you actually want to grab our attention, there's a clear line to here's how it works. We're prioritizing rants sent through Rumble Wallet. If you send one, we see it, we respond. It's as simple as that. Questions, hot takes, stuff you really want to react to. Well, don't bury it in the chat. Put it in a rant because let's be honest, regular chat flies by. We got, I think, like 3,000 people watching. It's hard to monitor the chat. But when you use Rumble Wallet, it cuts through everything. So here's the move. You download the Rumble Wallet now, scan the QR code, or you can hit the link. Setup is easy. Using MoonPay, you can use your debit or credit card or your existing bank account, and then you can send your first rant. What are you doing? I'm going to start answering those first. And yeah, unlike other platforms, your support actually lands with us and it's not sliced up along the way. But the real value is you get that direct interaction. And basically it's like a VIP lane. If you want to shout out, if you want a response, if you want to actually engage with what we're saying, use the Rumble Wallet, send the rant, and we will be watching for them. And I agree with that. The Badlandia, the DIA. Yeah, guys.
You don't agree with this?
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Okay.
I said I've never told people not to vote. But hey, so we are going to be I said this yesterday, in an effort to generate some more rants, we're going to be addressing them. If it's related to the topic, we're going to be addressing them right away. If it's just like, thank you for what you guys do, we deeply, deeply appreciate it. It helps out tremendously. But if you send a rant and it's specifically related to the topic we're on, or just a couple minutes after, I'll jump back and go back and read that rant in real time. So we appreciate that. Let's jump into this story here. Last Asawavana story. DNI Gabbard spurs probe into evidence that Congress and Trump were misled on election security. No doy. Remember we used to say that when we were kids? No doy.
I do remember that. Actually,
I remember where that came from. No doy. I think it was like Full House. Anyways, maybe it was from, I don't remember. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard's investigating evidence that spy agencies tried to conceal U.S. election vulnerabilities, including whistleblower claims that a CIA officer was asked to alter evidence of China meddling and that President Trump and Congress were intentionally kept in the dark about concerns involving China and Venezuela. Venezuela, there it is, Venezuela. Let's see what they have to say about Venezuela, because you guys know how I feel about Venezuela and the election claims. By the way, just real quick, Alpha, what is that called when a CIA officer subverts informing the president about what's actually going on. What is that called?
It starts with a T, as kind of ends in son. Treason. Treason.
I'm gonna go. I would go with more sedition.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I think I would go more. Like, doesn't treason have to? Well, I guess it does kind of involve a foreign country.
Does.
Yeah. So okay, I guess we could go there, but you'd have to be doing it on behalf of the foreign country.
It'd be you got to prove that there's a reason for that. Now, it's just a bigger argument because then who are you trying to put into office? And if you're trying to put a person into office that's going to be at the benefit of those very same foreign countries, well, then you got that. You check off that element.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I could see it going sedition or treason, but the National Intelligence Council concluded in 2020 that China had hacked or gained access to several state voter registration databases, but that information was hidden from the American public, state election officials, and Congress. New memos cite evidence that China may have gained access to between 12 and 18 states' voter registration databases in 2020 alone, an infiltration far larger than previously acknowledged. ODNI is currently in possession of allegations made by one or more intelligence officers arguing that foreign interference efforts by China were de-emphasized or omitted entirely from final analytic assessments, kept out of the president's daily brief or the PBD, or hidden from congressional oversight. Now let's get into some of the China stuff, the Venezuela stuff. The memos point to emails showing alleged attempts by certain CIA officials to cover up election influence by China and to push a CIA analyst to change a federal record. That, again, that's sedition, to change a federal record about an agency meeting where CIA officials purportedly hinted that China-related evidence was being held back to avoid helping Trump in the 2020 race. Go ahead.
Oh, so and conspiracy. Oh, that's all. I was just adding.
Yeah. The warnings raised and then purportedly suppressed inside the intelligence community in 2020 also included concerns about vulnerabilities tied to Venezuela-linked election infrastructure. Now, pause there. Ash, myself, Colonel Towner, we did the book all about this stuff. And again, a lot of the stuff in the book was good, was accurate. However, the Venezuelan narrative died in 2015 when Smartmatic was bought out by globalists, London, the CIA,
layers to the onion, Brian.
It's not layers to the onion. Stop saying Venezuela. Start saying globalist. Start saying Lord Malik Brown.
You can't start there because you have to walk people through the connections. For instance, at the beginning of the story, you said that President Trump was lied to about the security of the elections, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why not just go straight to the elections were stolen? Because you got to walk people through the process. And that's what's happening here. Because when you say that, the way we talked about at the beginning, that he was lied to or deceived or this information was kept from him about the security of the elections, then that opens a conversation to, well, what was that the documents that were asked to be changed, and what were the variables involved here? And then it brings up these conversations on the Venezuela linked machines. And then when we get to that part where the Venezuela machines come in, then that's when people start to report on the things that you guys have been way ahead of. Well, these machines actually go all the yes, most people will be like, they'll start to catch up with those stories like every other damn story that's reported here, right? And then they'll be like, oh, actually, these machines were tied to here and they were tied to here. You got to walk people through the process, bro. That's the only way that this is done. If you go straight to this is the end game, which is what we all want because we're definitely on a timetable, you don't pull the court of public opinion like that.
We're on 5.5 years of the Venezuela narrative. 5.5 years of the Venezuela narrative. And you said we're on a timeline. If we're on a timeline, rip the Band-Aid off. And plenty of people are ripping the Band-Aid off. It's not just me and Ash. There are plenty of people out there that are exposing SGO Corp and their involvement with Smartmatic and the pushing it back. And just look at the context of the risk reward factor. Okay, so if it was Venezuela that was doing this, what did it get them? Maduro's now in prison, whether he was captured or extracted. We can debate that. I tend to believe that he was extracted, not captured. But Maduro is in prison. Venezuela is just now finally. If they rigged the 2020 election, it would have been better for them to have Trump in, because Trump is doing big things for Venezuela right now. Or do we go back to 2020 and look at the Venezuela link, the Smartmatic link, which is a London-based company now? Do we look at the benefit that they've had? Right after the 2020 election, Lord Malik Brown was promoted to the president of Open Society. He got tons of benefits out of that, job, I would say.
Our number one benefit has nothing to do with the elections, though, when it comes to Venezuela.
No. But we're talking specifically here about the elections. We're talking specifically.
I'm just saying, just for people that may not understand that, it's that's definitely tied into it. I'm not saying it's not important or trying to minimize it. It's just not the number one priority. The number one priority for people that are wondering, well, so we captured the president. What's the big deal? So we're going to find out about this. What the big deal is, we control the oil in Venezuela now. Like, we, the good guys, which means in the energy war that we're in with China, we control it. It's the same shit that happened with Iran. This is the priority mission here is an energy war. And that's why, and Glenn Beck just reported it the day after I had talked about it on here, but I talked about it a few weeks ago too. I said, you're going to see action in the Strait of Malacca. You are. And it has nothing to do with being able to predict stuff. I did have a good source, but it had nothing to do with that. It's just, if you're tracking this energy war, what look, all this around the Panama Canal, the Strait of Hormuz, that's the next logical step of what's next. And this is where China's either going to bend the knee and start to really expose this sovereign alliance that's going on. She's going to have the power to do that, or they're going to fight it, and we're going to see some action in the Strait of Malacca.
Okay, I can get behind that. I think you said that last week on the show as well. I can get behind that. But in terms of the election thing right here, it's just the narrative of Venezuela. It just doesn't sit. It's time to rip the Band-Aid off. It's been 5.5 years.
Look how long it took us with COVID.
What?
Look how long it took us with hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin.
Yeah, but there's no timeline on that. There is a timeline on the elections. We've had three. A midterm, 2 midterms, and a presidential election in that span. Well, we're coming up on the second midterm, 2022.
There was a timeline.
We're on the timeline.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking about with the COVID. Is if we all anticipated, and Trump should have anticipated, they're probably going to try to play that playbook again for the midterms or the 2028 election. Then we have to get that information out to everybody on, hey, here's how you can fix it. And we're getting into that choke point where all this stuff is coming to a head all at once. And I think that's by design.
Well, we've got the we just covered the Fulton County story, right? I can tell you, I know Fulton County is, in terms of journalists and podcasts and everything else out there, I know Fulton County better than anybody in that sphere. There's obviously the investigators that I know that know it far better than I do. There's no Venezuela in Fulton County. There's not even a mention of Venezuela in anything having to do with Fulton County. This is organic. Now, the system itself, when we get into that, which hopefully we do, Puerto Rico sees the machines down there, Maricopa, hopefully we get into that and we figure out if there is some sort of interference, but it's not going to tie back to Venezuela. It's going to tie back to London. It's going to tie back to the globalists. And the CIA, as Colonel Towner says, is the Praetorian Guard of the globalists. And there's no doubt in my mind that the CIA is deflecting this blame from those globalists, from those London institutions, and pushing it on Venezuela because they're the easy scapegoat. They're the sexy scapegoat that we've been propagandized and brainwashed into believing that there's some evil communist regime that we need to go after them because they're rigging elections across the entire globe, even though not one of those elections that they're quote unquote rigging is beneficial or has been beneficial to Venezuela. They're all sanctioned by all of these countries. They're all, getting beaten down. They're hyperinflation, no oil sales, everything else. Like, Venezuela is the worst at rigging elections and putting in favorable leadership around the globe that you'll ever see. Nobody's better or worse, I should say.
Here's where I'll disagree with you. You're right in everything you said, but when you say nobody's benefiting, because nobody is doing business with Venezuela, and because everything's sanctioned in Venezuela, who did Venezuela have to black market their oil to?
Cuba, Russia, China.
China.
Yeah.
So if China knows that it's limited on who it can do business with for oil, then China would definitely benefit from all these other countries hating Venezuela. And you could definitely see China then having a hand on, maybe it's China that's making it look like all these, what you just attributed to the CIA, which I do believe the CIA is involved, but that mechanism behind it and pushing it could be China, because it guarantees China was getting this oil at a low dollar price, which is an absolute benefit for them. Because if you look at who's the one country that was hurt by this, it's China. If you remember some of the reporting John Solomon has hinted to, is we're going to see China's role in this. And so what I'm saying is, don't put blinders on strictly, and this is what I told the colonel as well, that it's, and she wasn't happy with me, that it's just the CIA. It's who was the mechanism pushing the CIA or pulling the strings on the CIA for that. Introduce conversation, Thomas Massey.
I'm still going to go back to the globalist. People say I underestimate the CCP. Please tell me more about the one topic that I've done more research on than anybody in Badlands. Please inform me all about elections, guys. I would love to hear that. No, it's the globalist, dude. Now China can benefit from that. There is and like you said, the oil from Venezuela, it's minuscule compared to Iran, compared to Iran.
When you say the globalist, I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
But I think the one error that a lot of people are making that subscribe to the Sovereign Alliance, which I do, is thinking that China is not controlled by the globalists. There is a faction of China that is absolutely controlled by the globalists. That is the CCP. Just like they're the only country that's eliminated the globalists the most is Russia. But there's a large faction in China. Xi is Sovereign Alliance. CCP is not. And that's why you see this war between Xi and what's going on with certain generals that are being pulled, certain people that are being missing. He's fighting the deep state in China like we are. And so the globalist has controlled every piece on the chessboard. And so if the globalists want to do it through the CCP, they can. So I don't disagree with you that it's the globalists. I just disagree with the idea that the globalists don't control the CCP.
Okay. Now you're going into a whole, like, that's something we'd have to unpack, and I'd have to do more research on that claim that the globalists control the CCP. There's no question that they have a lot of influence on there, because a lot of the globalist corporations and conglomerates use China as their pass-through, right? That's their cheap labor. That's their what would you call it? Like their money pit, so to speak. So yeah, I can get behind that. But again, going specifically to Venezuela and putting this on Venezuela is creating a like a false what would you call it? Like a
scapegoat.
Scapegoat, but a little bit more than a scapegoat, because everything is focused on that. We'll move on from that. There is a little bit more in this article that hits on China, and the usual suspects, right? This is what I call it in the election, the usual suspects. And there's no doubt that these entities would absolutely try and control our elections. But it says, we judge that the U.S. adversaries, including at minimum Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise the U.S. election infrastructure for the 2020 presidential election. That's the report that we read a couple weeks ago. That document did not mention Venezuela, but the new memos make clear that some concerns about Venezuela emerged in 2020 and have yet to be made public. We'll see. We'll see. We covered the book. I would encourage you guys to go back. Well, maybe I wouldn't encourage you guys to go back and check out the book club. But today at 2 p.m., we will be covering chapter 2 of The Creature from Jekyll Island, which is, yeah, dude, it's so good. It's so good.
You're starting it, right?
Yeah, we're on chapter 2. We're on chapter 2.
Okay, then I have to go back and watch last week's then and tap into that.
And since the book is publicly available, we are reading the book. It's not just a summary. So we're reading the book and commenting as we go through it. And so far, like last week, we didn't want to end the show. We were like, let's just keep going. It was so good. But okay, let's move on to the next story here. 50 minutes on why we vote. All right. We need a second show. Fed seized $10 million worth of fentanyl, arrest 18 in MacArthur Park drug raid. 18 to 25 people that were arrested are facing federal drug trafficking charges as part of the investigation that were rounded up in the sweep. The top targets include Malalai Moreno Lopez and her boyfriend Jackson Tarfer, were described as either the main source of fentanyl and meth to the area, or at least one of the main suppliers to the park. Law enforcement report finding approximately 40 pounds of fentanyl in one home alone. More than 10 million worth of highly dangerous drugs was seized. Lopez and Tarfer, they had a home in South Los Angeles, serving as a stash house where they would hand deliver narcotics to the Alvarado corridor to be stashed in storefronts and make their way to street level dealers. AG Blanche put this out. Agents from DEA and the LAPD have taken back MacArthur Park. To the drug dealers poisoning the streets, your safe haven is gone. And then Matt Finn, 300 federal and local agents doing a raid at the park. They had all the big guns out there for this. So Alpha, last week we saw the DOJ. Go ahead. I know you were tracking this. I knew
goosebumps are so damn fired up.
No, I knew you were going to be fired up on this story. Go for it.
This is on the heels of you have the FBI and local law enforcement going after the Mexican mafia or La M. And what we talked about during that show when this happened is this is the rank and file of the globalists, this conversation that we just had right here. That's why this shows another why we vote. Everything's full circle, everything, folks. And so what do we say? They're going to start talking because this is now starting to take out the dark money infrastructure. Trump went and attacked the money laundering, the white collar money laundering, but that's only one half of the money that feeds the globalists. The other half is the dark money. This is the weapons trafficking. This is the narcotics trafficking. This is the human trafficking. And he's now taking that off. And you would say, well, why did he go after this one second? And that's a very good question to ask. Why go after these guys second? Because these guys are funded by the white collar money laundering. So now when you take out the white money collar laundering, sorry, I say that a few times.
Collar money laundering.
Thank you. That makes it easier to get to these guys because these guys aren't getting paid at the higher echelons. These are the same guys that are going to snitch out everybody. That's how this investigation, I guarantee you 100%, you could do it. You could play it if you want to play it. I'm absolutely for sure on this one. This is a result of the investigations into the Mexican mafia. And some of you might be like, yeah, it's fentanyl, it's this. The same people that traffic fentanyl are the same people that traffic weapons. The same people that traffic weapons are the same people that traffic children. So when these people get taken down, that impacts child trafficking, human trafficking. This is all. And well, one more thing that's really important. California has been conquered by the globalist deep state. Their headquarters is not Sacramento. Their headquarters is Los Angeles. If you go back to what was the election company that was out here that was Smartmatic. Thank you. Where was that? Los Angeles.
Yep.
Los Angeles is the headquarters of the deep state in California. And so what you're seeing is an attack on the headquarters of the deep state in California. This is the same reason that we go back to last year and you saw the issues with the riots and Border Patrol and all that. This is the headquarters. The passage to taking California back is taking back Los Angeles. And that is happening right now in real time.
Yep. Ryan CRF says Canadian intelligence, CSIS, put out a report that China was interfering in Canadian elections, but did not specify how. I did not see that report. Holy crap. We got a ton of rants that I did not see. Why were these not showing up? Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure. Man, I completely screwed up. Lee Walden. I'll have to address those at the end. I screwed up on that. No, I did not see that Canadian intelligence report, but if you have it and you want to email it to me, CannCon at cancon.net, I'd love to read it. Alpha, getting back to what you said, all of this stemming from El Chapo, right? Remember when they caught his son and what was it, like was it both his sons or just one of his sons? And they said he's cooperating.
I think it was one.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The mayor of Sinaloa had to step down, and then Scheinbaum came out and said she's not going to do anything. This is really interesting because the point that you're making there about, cutting off the funding for, this deep state apparatus, for this globalist apparatus, we're seeing it being implemented right now. And like you said, it started USAID National Endowment, the CIA slush funds. I would love to see some of the CIA funding corporations, like legit corporations that are openly known to work with the CIA as funding apparatuses. I would like to see those start getting shut down as well. But then going into this is why I covered this story. It's a micro story in terms of geographics, but it has massive implications. So, and then just real quick, I want to hit on this. Katie Porter, running for governor in the debates, says the quiet part out loud about the crisis that you guys are facing out there in California.
Go ahead. It's the job of the California governor to protect every single Californian. The sanctuary state policy is designed to make sure that our state resources, the taxpayer dollars, the public servants that we have are focusing on doing their jobs, which is not cooperating with the federal immigration authorities. These are Californians. They contribute to our economy. They pay taxes, and they're one of the only ways that our state has been growing in recent years.
Did you know that, Alpha? Immigrants are the only reason your state's been growing. Yeah, because Gavin Newsom spent what was it, $400 million?
Well, let me tell you the lie about what she said. Now, because she's covering it with a little bit of truth when she says these immigrants, and I'll include illegals into the immigrants, pay taxes. She's not completely wrong. There are some immigrants that pay taxes. However, they claim 99 on their exemption. So technically they're paying taxes, but it's probably like not even $1 is what it breaks down to. And how do I know this? Because when I was a young kid and I was working these jobs, these illegals and some of the immigrants will get paid. And they were the ones when I would, even me and my cousin would get our check and we're like, damn taxes. And they're like, carnal. You need to put in the 99, right? And what are you talking about? And that's when I realized these things are claiming 99. They ain't paying nothing. Now, with that, you did have the Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, come out a few weeks ago and told Americans, if you guys weren't tracking, you should probably go out there and change your deductions. And that's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about, because this administration's at war with the IRS too. However, so I do agree with it. It's just these illegals have been doing this for decades.
Yep.
So no, they're not paying the same amount of taxes as Americans.
Well, I just flashed the headline we covered last week: $1 billion that Gavin Newsom spent to import 400,000 illegals into California. And that is what Porters were saying when she says about growth. She's not referring to financial growth. She's referring to population growth, because that's what's going to factor into the census, or it did factor into the census. It won't. Hopefully in 2030, that's all cleared up and we don't count illegals, because you saw California lose 2 electoral votes. They'd probably lose 5 or 6 if, with the mass exodus of people that are leaving California. I know you're strongly thinking about it yourself. Several other Californians are doing the same. They just don't want to live there. It's a beautiful state, absolutely gorgeous state. This is
the impact that Trump had on California. Anybody that's been living in California the last few years, you saw rent prices were just doing this for us, like insane. As soon as Trump won, you saw a slow decrease, and right now rent prices are at a pause.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is because the demand for renting was high.
Bingo.
And the reason demand for renting was high was because all these illegals that were being flooded into California, now they're getting deported. And so what you're going to continue to see is you're going to see rent prices and home prices in California start to do this.
Yep. And by the way, they were being subsidized to pay those rent prices. That's the thing. They were getting government money while we were, not we, because I'm not a Californian, I'm a Floridian, but we were being Californians were, getting screwed in this, while immigrants are getting, and to be fair, I mean, they're living like 5 or 6 people in an apartment, separate families, but they're all having their payments subsidized, and they're doing this in a way that drives the price higher. Now, we've seen a trend, and thankfully the trend hasn't hit Florida yet, but for the first time in the last few months, we've seen more sellers than buyers, which is kind of the inverse of what we'd seen historically over the last several years. There's been more buyers than sellers, and when that happens, you have a seller's market, and now it's a buyer's market. Now that hasn't hit in Florida yet because the mass exoduses we're seeing from California, New York, and all those states are coming to Florida. They're coming here, so our home values haven't gotten hit yet. But I've seen other people. And even some of the liberal people around here are like, I think we need to sell our house while the getting's good, because it's not going to last for long. Eventually the mortgage rate's going to come back down.
And I know people hate California and let it float onto the ocean, but I do want to remind everybody, with all the nonsense we have going on here, this will shock some people, and these numbers are accurate to the beginning of last year, is California is still a plus benefit to the country when it comes to the GDP. When it comes to the GDP, California is still giving more money to the rest of the country than it is taking in. And so just understand the implications of that. Now, with that, imagine how much more beneficial California could be to the nation's economy and GDP if we got rid of all these fundings. As much as we hate California and New York, they are so important to the economy of the United States. And if we secure those two states to where they're, legitimate states, the entire country prospers from that.
You guys also have a lot of resources that are untapped,
especially in the ocean. Although Trump is forcing them with that one.
I know. All right, so let's kind of pivot into some fraud. And again, I'm not a huge fan of the outlet, but Daily Wire had a great piece about Somali fraud in Ohio. The next step in the tour, maybe we got to get Nick Shirley down there doing his little videos. I don't know. Daily Wire investigation reveals one of the biggest government waste scandals hiding right in plain sight. It says Doge, before it went away in February, published a massive trove of data that lets the public see what companies are billing Medicaid for. This is the first time in decades that this payout has been disclosed. It used to be shrouded in secrecy. One of the largest government programs on record was a black box. What this author found was that blatant waste of federal dollars that encountered in his 2 decades is the most blatant waste of federal dollars that he has encountered in his 2 decades as an investigative reporter. Ohio, which like Minnesota, has granted waivers to expand Medicaid well beyond its original purpose. Ohio people can go to Medicaid beneficiaries for homes for homemaking and chores, like cooking and cleaning. That's not medical care, by the way, just in case you guys didn't know that. People performing these quote unquote personal services don't even have to be healthcare workers, and in many cases are actually relatives of the recipients, and there's no accountability because all of this is done in private homes, and you can't go into the home and be like, hey, are you doing the things that you're supposed to be doing? No, you're just getting the money and no accountability. Columbus, Ohio, the city with the second largest Somali population in the country, has become on the surface the most unhealthy city on the planet, mainly because it's a lot of fraud, not necessarily that it's literally the most unhealthy. Driving down Cleveland Avenue in less than 40 seconds, you come across endless home health companies, entire buildings throughout the city that are filled entirely with what appear to be identical businesses. It's just like with Dr. Oz. Remember when he was standing out in front of that big warehouse and he's like, you walk down here and they're all healthcare. Nick Shirley walks into the abandoned motel that's been turned into an office complex. All of them. Healthcare, funeral, or not funeral, hospice care, home health care, daycare, all the stuff. 6161 Bush Boulevard the building has a lack of windows, but inside there's 94 different companies signed up to bill Medicaid with a tiny office marked with a sheet of paper proclaiming a generic name ending in home health care. So Alpha Home Health Care, CannCon Home Health Care. We should get in. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to get in on the home health care fraud. The building alone has billed taxpayers $66 million in just the last few years. One building, folks. And there it is with no windows. Why would you not want windows on the outside, Alpha? By the way, it looks like there was windows, but
you don't want nobody seeing inside.
You don't want nobody seeing inside. Hey, look at this building. Why is there never anybody in there? They just pay $2,000-$3,000 a month for rent. and they never show up to work. They sit at home and take care of their family and get filthy rich doing it. Now they're going to be publishing more and more on this over the coming, days. I think they already have part 2 out, but it says we went down several rabbit holes. How about a politician who founded an $11 million home healthcare company that appeared to run part-time without ever mentioning it in his political biography, and funded his campaign with donations from other home healthcare owners? Can't wait to see who that guy is. Cannot wait to drag that guy or girl through the mud. A woman who reinvented her janitorial LLC as a health care provider and then billed Medicaid nearly $100,000 in the first month. How big would that change your life, Alpha, if you could bill the government for $100,000 for 1 month?
Y'all wouldn't see me on. Yeah.
I'd be chilling on a beach drinking pina coladas and Mai Tais or something.
I would have been on some expedition ship getting the Hantavirus.
How about a landlord who bought airplanes after renting space to hundreds of home healthcare companies that billed Medicaid for $250 million? That's a big one that needs to be looked at, man. The companies that are renting these spaces and they're like, nothing's going on here. We got no problem. We're getting paid. They don't want to give up their cash cow, right? Turn a blind eye.
The sad part is the legitimate learning centers, the legitimate hospice centers, the legitimate medical facilities could have been benefiting so much for the surplus of money that would have been out there that was taken through all this fraud for the actual patients that really needed it. Like, there's legitimate companies out there. And here's the other thing. And I feel for these people because they're going to go through what law enforcement goes through. Is if you even mention that you have a hospice company now, or you're part of a learning center, you're going to be looked at with a slant eye because people are going to be like, oh, you're a fraudster. You're one of them. And that's unfortunate for those people, because those are jobs that truly you can only do it with passion. Like, you're a different person to do those jobs. And the fact that those people are going to have to, work through the black eye that they're going to have for some time really sucks.
For sure. In part 2 of the Daily Wire expose, in a Cordoba-owned building in Columbus housed 288 businesses registered with Medicaid. One building, 288 businesses that are registered with Medicaid. Together, they charged taxpayers more than $250 million between 2018 and 2024. One building, one city, one state. That city has 6,273 people that are 75 or older and on Medicaid. So 200, do the math, 288 businesses. Let's round up to 300 and round down to 6,000 people. That's 20 people per business, and they're charging $250 million in a 6-year span. How is this not caught? How is this not like
it was ignored?
What's that?
It was ignored.
It was ignored. Exactly. It's been ignored. The federal oversight, and this is why the states are pushing back so hard against any audit of Medicaid expenditures, general welfare expenditures, voter rolls. They're pushing back so hard on this because the federal government is giving out just endless supplies of money with no accountability of their own. There's no regard for how it's being utilized. And now Donald Trump comes in and says, we're going to get this under control. Elon Musk brings in Doge and says, dude, you got to see this. And by the way, I firmly believe this is all game planned, and we're just seeing the strategic releases of this type of information. There's no question in my mind.
I agree with you on that one, 100%.
Let's jump into this story because I think that there might be a relation here. So we talked about this again. This broke while we were on live on Daily yesterday. So we just got the surface level of all of this. FBI searches Virginia Senate leader's office as part of a corruption probe, AP sources say. So we scroll down here. The FBI searched the Virginia State Senate leader's hometown office and her neighboring cannabis shop in a corruption investigation. That's all they'll say, according to 2 people familiar. One of the people said that the investigation into Democratic Senator Eloise Lucas was opened during Biden's administration. Interesting. Interesting. But Democrats still view it against a backdrop of recent politically charged inquiries. Lucas, who has been a senator for 34 years, was a prominent voice in the Virginia redistricting effort. And that's what we just went through. But here's where it gets interesting. So it said the FBI is only conducting a court-authorized search in Portsmouth. Lucas's office houses her disability services business. Agents also went to the nearby cannabis store. So immediately everybody's like, hey, the cannabis store corruption, because I hear cannabis, and they're like, cannabis is bad. There's got to be drugs and corruption and everything else.
But ignored the disability.
But ignored the fact that she was running a disability services business out of her office, her political campaign, or her, political office or whatever. I bet you this is related to the disabilities business.
I would put my money on that. I would put my money on that angle too.
Now, could the cannabis business be a laundering operation because it's a cash business? Perhaps. But I am going to put money that this woman is wrapped up in the Somali fraud. Not we say Somali fraud, but the Medicare, Medicaid fraud.
If I had to pick one, I 100% agree with you. But if I had a choice, I'd say it's probably both, because she's doing the one fraud. She's probably doing the other fraud too. Criminal gonna criminal.
Just don't fuck up my cannabis industry, man. By the way, Alpha, it's like 10 days away from a month, 9 days away from a month. So,
okay.
Not even a craving, bro.
All right.
Not even a craving.
Okay. We'll get there. We'll get there when we get there.
It's not a question of whether or not we're going to get there. It's a question of how much am I going to smoke the day that I get there. What's the date? The 16th? I might. Oh wait, no, it's all the way to June. I'm not going that far. Tom C. as senior says, wonder how the job numbers get so high in the state. These blooming healthcare agencies are create a lot of jobs that are unnecessary. We saw that with Nick Shirley's expose, just going by and seeing people that were working for the companies, and they're just kind of like walking around just casually like, yeah, I have no idea what we do here, but I get paid. I get a check every day or every week.
How many employees don't really exist?
Exactly. Well, that's with the federal government. That's a Doge expose that we'll be seeing coming down here pretty soon. And they targeted that beautifully. We caught it right away, sending out the emails like, you got to tell us what you do here in order to keep your employment.
Immediately knew what that was about.
Yep. That was a fishing expedition. And just to point this out, Eloise Lucas back in 2023, Donald Trump just learned no one is above the law. That did not age so well. Did not age.
That's good. That
did not age well.
Good.
Did not age well. If you're breaking the law, it's probably not a great idea to say those kinds of things. So staying on the fraud here for a minute, Minnesota Democrats circle the wagons around Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar has been the subject of a lot of scandals recently, including of obviously the financial disclosures, where her net worth went from 30 million to 95,000 due to a error, right? Technical glitch, human error. The same election fraud denialisms they throwing now into financial fraud denialisms. Just days after that updated disclosure, her winery completely dissolved. Omar's claims that this is all a coordinated right-wing disinformation campaign, but she's still refusing to come before the legislature in Minnesota and answer questions about the Feeding Our Futures program, which she enabled through her COVID policies. Minnesota Democrats blocked a subpoena that would have required Omar to turn over documents to the Minnesota House Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Policy Committee. And here's a video of that vote.
The vote is 5 in favor, 3 against. The motion fails and the subpoena will not be issued. But I will continue to try to reach out to Representative Omar's.
All right. So that's Minnesota legislature. I think her name's Kristen Robbins. Let me make sure I cite her properly. I think it's Kristen Robbins. Where is her name? I had it up.
Gator Rob put something funny in the chat.
What's that?
Gator Rob put something funny in the chat. I'm not going to read it. It's just funny.
Well, my wife still uses that, so I get to hear the sound too, and it makes me go to a Sublime song every single time. Matt Van Swole put this out. One last thing on fraud, and this is shocking, man. This is like we've seen the fraud in the Palisades, the federal money that's being squandered out there. Now we're seeing the same thing in North Carolina. Apparently, it's been revealed that the city of Asheville will only build 8 houses with the $225 million grant that they received from the Trump administration after Hurricane Helene. Out of the 11,488 damaged homes, 8 will be rebuilt. The city allocated only $3 million for home repairs. $225 million given, $3 million for home repairs. $14.9 million for administrative fees, administration. So the bureaucrats are going to get $15 million. The people, $3 million. That's fucking bonkers. I'm sure we'll be seeing more reporting on this coming out. Matt Van Swole is the first person I've seen to report on that thus far. It's crazy, man. Like,
just think of all the problems you could solve, man, with that money.
You just wonder why we're still, and again, you alluded to Besson and what he said about the deductions, but you just got to wonder, like, why are we still paying taxes, man?
I think we'll have one. I think we'll have like a flat tax, and I'm okay with that. If you see the claims coming forward, like if I can drive down a California freeway and not have to worry about some 20-inch pothole, if I can go and send my kid to a school and there's not 35 kids in one classroom, if I can go to if I can go down to Huntington Beach and it's not homeless encampments everywhere, then the flat tax that exists, and I'll talk about a very small one, I'd be okay with that, because you'd see, okay, they're using our money that we're paying into for the appropriate reasons. I'm solid with that. But it's just like when all those problems and so much more exists and they just keep taking and taking, it's like, screw you, you're stealing from us.
I've always been a fan of a VAT tax and a value-added tax. So when you buy something, you pay a small tax, and that's it. That's the only tax you pay in total for everything. Federal. I mean, state, you could do the same thing, probably state. I mean, we have a sales tax, but not everything is subject to sales tax, depending on your state. But like a VAT tax, a value-added tax, first and foremost, the federal government, let's go back to the old way where the federal government has to come to states for money. Everything that you just named there about the potholes and everything else, that's all state income, right? That's all state expenditures. But we've gotten to the point where the states are trying to do so much when they don't need to, let the private sector do its thing. But they're trying to do so much and they fuck everything up, right? The state fucks everything up. When you look at the Van Swole thing, the 14.9, the $15 million to administrative fees and administrative processes, $3 million to the people, that's about right. That's about right.
I hear you, but even on the federal side, we need to have a military. We need to have border security. Like there are things that we do need.
Yeah, but we're not supposed to have a military with 750 bases across the globe.
We got to have some bases across the globe. I agree with you on the number. You got to have strategic positions everywhere.
No, we don't.
Okay, so you're saying there's no bad guys in the world?
Yeah, there's plenty of bad guys.
So we're just going to wait till those bad guys.
Let the other countries deal with them.
Okay, and when those other countries can't fend off the bad guys and they get conquered, eventually those bad guys get closer to us.
Who is going to conquer who?
You don't think a globalist deep state exists?
No. Yes, I agree. They've already conquered us.
Okay, you think they're just going to go away?
What's our military doing? Is our military fighting the World Economic Forum?
Well, we should be.
Wow.
And that's what I'm saying is I agree with you. We have way more bases than we need. I 100% agree with you on that. However, until our creator comes down to this planet, evil's always going to exist. And until that day comes, we do have to have some strategic positioning around the world to prevent that what happens. The intentions of our military have always made sense. They've just been weaponized and exploited.
So who's
that doesn't take away from the fact that it's needed.
who's going to do the conquering? Is Russia going to do the conquering? Because Russia has like single digit.
It doesn't. There's no. It's never a nation state because it's never a nation state that's doing it. It's when the globalists infiltrate those countries, and then it's that country's flag, it's that country's army, it's that country's people that's weaponized. So it doesn't matter the country until the globalist New World Order is eradicated. That threat's always going to exist.
What if we had? Okay, so we have 700 bases across the globe. Would you agree there's an infiltration in the United States right now?
100%.
What if we had 700 bases on our southern border?
Well, there wouldn't be room for 700 bases on our southern border.
It'd be a pretty freaking secure border, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, I'm not against that.
Well, there's the infiltration. There's no infiltration with NATO countries, with us having bases in Germany and Poland and Italy. And
not all infiltrations. Not all infiltrations are people coming across borders. All you have to do, it's just like our country. The vast majority of our country is good people. But if you strategically, through leverage and blackmail and assassinations, plug people into the right spots, governments, presidents, generals, you put people in those positions, and now you control the entire country. It's what happened to us. If it can happen to us, the most powerful country in the world, we're to believe that it can't happen to any other country that exists on this planet.
We are very unique in that we are very much isolated. We only have 2 neighbors, and then we have a huge ocean that is separating us from the rest of them. We are unique
as we are. We had 12 to 30 million illegals that came in less than 4 years
at our southern border. If we had 700 bases down there,
it wasn't just our southern border. The majority was our southern border,
mostly our southern border.
But we have a lot that come in through our ports.
Yep.
People don't realize it's southern border. I agree. Priority number 1. Priority number 2 are ports. West Coast and East Coast.
Yep. I agree. And we could 750 bases is a lot to spread throughout there. The point being is that we are spending way too much on military. No other country in the world spends anywhere near as much as we do. Not even close as much as we do.
And more. Just use it for the right reasons. I want us to have the biggest on the planet when it comes to the military. I want us to be like, it's stupid how many tanks and planes we have. It
already is stupid how many tanks.
I want it more because right now other countries, are what they tell us are enemies. We're like, oh, I wanted to get to the point where it's just like, damn. Number 2 powerhouse in military, the U.S. has 20,000 planes per one plane that they have. Like, just stupid. That's how big I want our military.
Okay.
Go back and take that authoritarian test again. I think
our military is already that big, by the way. SQ Quinn, gotta say, since the pause rewind option is available, I will not be watching live anymore. I like being able to pause as I go out to feed the cat or go to the bathroom. This was my AM go-to. I don't know what to tell you. It's not like I changed it. But thank you for tuning in prior to this. Lee Walden, yeah, we let Obama be our president. Jape is not that infiltration. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, Lee. Talk to text, man. You gotta wean yourself off of it. All right, let's jump into this article from Politico and Semper Paratus, Lee. See you out there. I see you out there. Trump counterterrorism strategy targets violent left-wing extremists with transgender ideology. Violent left-wing extremists and extremist transgender ideology are among the most concerning threats facing the country, according to the new counterterrorism strategy. The strategy lists, quote, violent left-wing extremists, end quote, as one of the top 3 focuses, along with narco-terrorists and Islamist terrorists. Out of those 3, Alpha, what's your number 1, 2, and 3 before we get into the article? 1, 2, and 3. Left-wing extremists, narco-terrorists, Islamic terrorists.
As far as what? Nationally or internationally?
Biggest threats to our country, to the US.
Number 1, narco terrorists. Number 2, Islamic extremists, and number 3, leftist extremists.
Okay, I'm surprised we agree on this. I thought you were going to put Islamic number 1, but we agree on that. So okay. And the narco, because it's not even close. Like it's not even close.
The reason I go narco number 1 is when you take out the narcos, you affect the ability for the Islamic extremists to facilitate their job.
Absolutely. You also kill hundreds of thousands of Americans per year compared to dozens on the Islamic terrorist side. So it's not even close in comparison. In fact,
narco terrorists are legitimate physical damage. The Islamic terrorists operate off of the fear. It's fear based. It's the concept of what 9/11 is. You're afraid to go to.
But how much of the fear is reports like this that are like, you got to be afraid of the Islamic terrorists?
You have to be afraid of them.
What?
You do have to be afraid of them.
So you're promoting the fear mongering
of Islamic extremists. 100%.
Okay. Okay.
Do you know how many mosques are in this country?
Yeah.
How many?
Well, I mean, I know there's a lot of mosques in this country. What's the point?
Almost 3,000.
Yeah.
Islam is not compatible with Western culture. And if you understand the process of how Islam takes over, that's what's happening in this country. I'm not talking about the 9/11s. I'm not talking about the Nessa Dharma. I'm not talking about that. Look at that. Statistically, that's a rarity. I'm talking about the real threat. Infiltration into local government to take over communities. This is exactly what you're seeing down in Texas. It's exactly what you're seeing in Dearborn, Michigan.
There's a lot. There's a lot of legal work that has to be done before you can tackle those things.
I don't disagree with you, but that framework was created in support of Islamic extremism.
I mean,
it was made. It literally was made to facilitate that.
It goes back to, I mean, the First Amendment, which is 1783.
Islam is not a religion, folks.
I'm saying the point is you'd have to do a lot of work to the Constitution in order to be able to do anything about mosques.
Yeah, but you don't know. Well, here's the thing, and granted, folks, for the people, you're trying to defend the Jews. I got no issues with Muslims. I got no issues with Jews. I'm talking about these institutions. And if you go back, because I did, this was a couple of years ago. This was not too long after October 7th. If you look at the people that signed the bills to promote Islamic migration into the United States, it was actually 2 Jews that did that bill. Imagine that. So for all you people that are Jews, they facilitated this fucking plan.
Of course.
So if you're a person that has an issue with the country that starts with an I, you should have an issue with Islam. So if you're someone that has an issue with the country that starts with a little I and you want to ignore Islam, you're a hypocrite.
I don't ignore any of it.
I'm not saying you.
Okay.
I'm saying
I'm just saying it's very difficult to broadly go after it. There is a way to go after it.
I don't think so. I say you outlaw every single mosque that exists in the United States.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion.
It's not religion. It's a political party.
It's a religion.
No, it's not.
A religion.
It is not.
It's one of 3 Abrahamic religions, dude.
It does not operate like the definition of religion the way we understand it.
Now, you can go after entities that are not operating as religions. That absolutely. Political ideology. There's tax exempt statuses that are protected. I agree with that. But that's an uphill lift. And if you want to go after that, just remember,
rip off the Band-Aid and just say Islam's not a religion.
It is, though. It's not a religion. You might not like it. You might not disagree with it. It is. I don't like it.
Is Sharia law in conflict with
Sharia law is not a religion. You're not talking about Islam now.
But I'm breaking
Sharia law,
which is a concept of Islam. And so
it's a construct of Islam.
Absolutely.
It's not a concept of Islam.
It
if
is.
You want to ban Sharia law, I'm all for that.
And it's a highly followed one by institutions of mosque in our country.
You can absolutely ban Sharia law.
You did. Governor DeSantis just did it.
Well, I know.
And guess what? Those are the footsteps towards banning Islam. And that's why I 100% love what DeSantis is doing, because he's going in the right direction with that.
Yeah, but now, so you want to talk, and you need to be, your verbiage needs to be correct here. Say Sharia law. That Sharia law is a problem in this country.
Sharia law is the start. Islam is the end. Islam needs to be banned from America.
You're going to have a hard time with that. You're going to have a very hard time.
I think a lot of people would agree with me on that one.
Well, you're the authoritarian. There you go. I'm the constitutionalist, and I'm unpopular because everybody wants me to ban Islam until they're coming for Catholics, or until they're coming for Baptists, or
come
until
come for the Vatican. Don't come for Catholics, but go for the Vatican. I support that.
Go for the Vatican.
I lost track of time. I got to bounce out to my last doctor's appointment. Y'all can keep me in prayers. It's all been going good, so no worries.
A heads up.
I did.
When?
I told you last week, and I put it in the chat.
Say bye to Alpha, guys. All the hopium addicts are going to be ticked off now. All right, we'll see you tonight on Sit Rep. All right, let's keep moving here. That was definitely unexpected. All right, let's get into Premier Jayapal. There we go. We'll move over to. Actually, no, wait. We didn't finish this story. Now I get to propagandize you guys with all the First Amendment protections that were afforded in this country. So carrying on with this strategy, it says the strategy lists, quote, violent left-wing extremists as one of the top 3 focuses alongside narco-terrorists and Islamist terrorists. Again, I'll show you the AP's coverage of this because they are more in line with the narco-terrorist side of it. It's a sharp departure from the Biden administration, which concentrated on extremism on the right. Biden in 2023 called white supremacy the most dangerous terrorist threat. Now, the reason I think that that's interesting is because now we have the SPLC expose, right? The Southern Poverty Law Center and their funding of these white supremacist groups, the KKK, the neo-Nazis. We're doing the same thing with these Islamic groups. We're doing the same things with these terrorist organizations. We've been doing it. The madrasas over in the Middle East. We've been funding this for quite some time. And so hearing Biden say that white supremacy is the greatest threat while the leftist groups are funding white supremacy is just like us saying radical Islam is the biggest threat while we're funding radical Islam. Not we necessarily, right? We're not the ones that are doing it, but it's being funded. So the essence of the Sharia law factions that Alpha was referring to there are the ones that are being funded by our intelligence in order to, kind of propagate these issues that we face here in the United States. It's the same thing as what the left was doing with Biden, just in reverse. It's in reverse. It says it's a sharp, wait. The Trump team is also looking at how domestic online activities could incite violence. Quote, we see a threat, we will respond to it, and we will crush it, whether it is the cartel, the jihadists, or the violent left-wing extremists like Antifa, and like the transgender killers, the non-binary, the left-wing radicals who killed my friend Charlie Kirk. We will take them on head-on, says Sebastian Gorka. Gorka stressed the counterterrorism team is focused on all online groups that are, quote, inciting violence against innocent individuals on both sides of the aisles. Counterterrorism activities will prioritize the rapid identification and neutralization of violent secular political groups, anti-American, radically pro-gender, or anarchists such as Antifa, and use all tools constitutionally available to map them at home, identify their membership, and map their ties to international organizations. I'm not going to lie, folks, that sounds very authoritarian. Using prioritizing and rapid identification and neutralization of violent secular political groups. I mean, the Sons of Liberty would have been a violent secular political group in 1773. I don't know. Sebastian Gorka, he's always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Here's another one that, again, they kind of highlight the main point of this at the end. This one's much more favorable. I'm all about the narco-terrorist groups. I think that is the biggest threat to our country. Hundreds of thousands of Americans that are killed from drug overdoses, and not just the people that are killed, the endemic drug use that just absolutely eats away at our cities, counties, states, the funding, all of the stuff that goes into it, drug abuse, addiction, and everything else is all being, kind of permeated through our country by the narco terrorists. And I'm 100%. When Trump was out there blowing up the narco ships, and some people are like, you can't do this, you can't do that, I was like, go for it. There is more of a threat from that boat right there than any Iraqi or any Afghani that we fought when we were over in Afghanistan. By far. Not even close. Not even close. If we directed the 750 military bases we have throughout the globe and directed half of those resources to our southern border and stopping and thwarting narco-terrorism and drugs from entering into our country, you would watch this country turn around in a couple of months. In a couple of months. And it would be brutal because you'd have a lot of people going through some nasty withdrawals when they can't get their fix anymore. And you'd have all sorts of craziness. But ultimately, you would see this country turn around almost instantly. But anyways, let's get into this story. President Donald Trump has signed off on a new U.S. counterterrorism strategy that sets eliminating drug cartels in the Western Hemisphere as the administration's highest priority. This is in line with the national security agreement that he put out, 6 months ago? The Don Roe Doctrine. Sebastian Gorka, the White House counterterrorism czar who spearheaded the new strategy, said the shift in priorities acknowledges some simple math. Far more Americans have been killed by cartels pushing illicit drugs into the U.S. communities than American service members lost in conflicts around the globe since World War II. Fact. Gorka, huge hat tip. I'm putting that out there. Absolute fact. The number's not even close. It's not even close. In fact, like a decade of the drug abuse compared to every war would probably be a little bit closer. Quote, whether it's strangling their illicit funds, whether it's tracking their drug boats, we will not permit them to kill Americans on a massive scale, Gorka said. Jump down here. The administration's campaign of blowing up alleged drug trafficking vessels has persisted since early September and killed at least 191 people in total. We don't see those drug boat blowing up videos too much anymore. Maybe it's like they kind of got the picture. They got the idea. Like, hey, we probably shouldn't do this because we're probably going to get blown up. And then lastly, this is the interesting part. Trump has sought to press regional leaders to work more closely with the U.S. to target cartels and take military action against drug traffickers and transnational gangs. And they've been kind of resistant to it. We've seen them, be resistant to it. In the Just the News article, what's her name? Scheinbaum in Mexico the other day saying, we're not going to hand over the mayor of Sinaloa, the Roya, what was his name? Roca Lamoya. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Okay, so let me figure out where I'm going now. I did not know that was going to happen. All right, here we go. Here's Premier Jayapal. I think this has potential to be a Logan Act violation. The Logan Act typically deals with private citizens, not Congress as much. But I don't know, guys. Listen to what she says here about Cuba, and it sounds like she's undermining President Trump's foreign policy. Let me make sure it's not sped up. See, it was sped up.
In January, Trump issued an executive order threatening tariffs on any country supplying fuel to Cuba. This was this January, just a few months ago. And oil shipments from Venezuela, that's where Cuba had been getting its oil, were halted after the U.S. operations to kidnap Nicolas Maduro. Since January, only one Russian tanker of oil has made it to Cuba. In fact, it landed just a couple of days before I landed. And one tanker has enough oil basically for 10 to 14 days of Cuba's oil needs. So it's a very limited amount of time. Now, Russia has said they're going to send another tanker. I was in conversations with the ambassadors from Mexico and some other places, and I know other countries in Latin America are trying to figure out how to get oil there. But it is a crisis beyond imagination. Just this past Friday, on May 1st, Trump signed a broad executive order that widens sanctions and allows for new penalties similar to what we have for Iran and Russia against foreign banks and firms that are dealing with Cuba.
Okay, so we can land that there. The key takeaway was when she said that she's been in negotiations or in talks. I want to make sure I cite this properly. Hold on.
Oil basically for 10 to 14 days of Cuba's oil needs. So it's a very limited amount of time. Now, Russia has said they're going to send another tanker. I was in conversations with the ambassadors from Mexico and some other places, and I know other countries.
Okay, she says she was in conversations with the ambassadors from Mexico and other places. Why is Jayapal going behind President Trump's back? President Trump declared a national emergency. He sanctioned, or he tariffed any countries that were shipping oil to Cuba, and that was within his powers under the International Economic Powers Act, the IEPA. That was within his power. And a congresswoman goes behind his back and is negotiating with ambassadors on how to get oil to Cuba. Look, the Logan Act is typically reserved for private citizens. In other words, I can't go and start negotiating deals to circumvent the foreign policy of the United States. But she has no business. And I was playing around with the machine this morning. She's not on any foreign policy committees. She's not on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. She's not on any foreign policy committees in the House. Why is she doing this? And why is she admitting this? This is something that's that there could be an investigation into what she is saying with these ambassadors. The ambassador is meant to deal with the executive of the United States, the commander in chief, the principal executor. I mean, Congress in congruence with the president can do that, but it just seems a little bit weird that she's out there trying to circumvent this. So, and then this will probably be the last thing, just weird as shit. We got an Epstein suicide note now. What? Yes, we got an Epstein suicide note because apparently he was given a pen and paper, I guess. And he says in this note, they investigated for a month. I'm assuming for a month. They investigated for a month, found nothing. So 16-year-old charges results. That it is a treat to be able to say goodbye. Time to say goodbye. What you want me to do? Burst out crying? No fun. Not worth it. Burst out crying? Burst out crying. What? That's just so weird. They found it under his pillow. Yeah, just a random, there it is. Look, all of a sudden now we've got the Epstein suicide note. What? Okay, I don't know. All right, let's get into some Rumble rants here. Lee Walden, I'm sorry I missed your rants earlier. Says, morning, Devil Dogs. Your dedication to our America is much appreciated. The coming phase and weeks are just the beginning of the awakening, where we go one, we go all. And for those that don't know, I poked fun at Lee earlier in the show when I was reading because I was like, I don't understand that. We do that all the time. We love Lee. Lee's our coastie. He's our resident coastie, Semper Paratus. And us Marines, we don't always get the intellectual high ground, but I think we've got it when it comes to Lee's rants because he does the talk to rant. So we have to interpret them sometimes. The coming days and weeks are just the beginning. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate it, brother. Jordan Sather, COVID jab side effects, Hantavirus. I think you meant to say Hantavirus, but it could be the Hantavirus. And studied 20 years ago show remarkable benefits of hydrogen chloride. I might have that wrong. I think you meant hydroxychloroquine. He says I might have that wrong. You probably meant hydroxychloroquine, but hydrogen chloride, we'll go with it. You have to go to his article, Time Well Spent. Well, Jordan is the resident expert on this kind of stuff here. He knows so much about this, more than any of us on this show. Appreciate that, Lee. Word on the street, there were no usual trip videos of their trip. Nothing. There were no usual trip videos of their trip. Nothing. I'm assuming the Hantavirus, the ship, I assume. Chlorine dioxide is the cure for Hantavirus. Secondly, the COVID jab side effects, Hantavirus. Lee, man, please type. Don't talk to text. I appreciate the rants very, very much, though. Morning, Devil Dog. Much appreciate your dedication and gift to We the People, where we go one, we go all. Thanks, Lee. Semper Paratus, brother. Ryan CRF, Canadian Intelligence. We read that one. Thank you. Canadian Intelligence put out a report that China was interfering in Canadian elections, but didn't specify how. Tom CSR, wonder how the job numbers got so high in the state these blooming healthcare agencies are created. Yup. Fake jobs. Too many fake ass Republicans. I'm freaking sick of it. Me too, Tom. Me too. S. Quinn, got to say, since the pause rewind option is available, we read that one. Lee Walden, y'all let the Obama be our president. Jape is not that infiltration. Rainbow, Islam is a theocracy. It is another to our constitution. So again, you're looking at Islam and Sharia law as two separate entities. And this is coming from somebody that's lived in a solely Islamic country, probably longer than anybody in the chat, over 2 years. Is it congruent with us? No, it's not. Is Sharia law? Absolutely not. Can you ban Islam from America? Not unless you change the First Amendment. Just telling you the way it is. And somebody in the chat was like, "Oh, you're such a libertarian." Yes, I am. I am a libertarian, 100%. I'd never denied being a libertarian. I'm a conservative libertarian. My morals and ethics I can distinguish and differentiate from the Constitution. I can tell you what I feel, doesn't mean I can do it. There's a big difference. All right. People don't understand that. There's a big difference between what we can do and what I feel needs to be done. Total different. Ban Sharia law. Absolutely. Do I think we can do it? Yes. I think that can be done. Ban Islam. I think it's incongruent with the United States culture, with American culture. I do. Can you ban it? No, you can't, unless you change the First Amendment. So again, it is what it is. You know, if you can't separate your morals and your ethics from what can legally be done, then you got a problem. You got a problem. I'm a free speech absolutist. I agree with CannCon. Me too. I'm a free speech Well, I agree with CannCon because I am CannCon, but I agree with I'm a free speech absolutist as well. Sharia is the Quran. That is false. Sharia is a strict interpretation. That would be like us saying we have to kill Babylonian babies because the Old Testament says to do it. That's the difference. That's the difference, EC. Islam is not a religion. Oh, God. This is like, you guys can think what you want. You guys can go do whatever you want to do. You guys focus on Islam. I'll focus on narco-terrorism. One kills 170,000 Americans a year and drains us financially. The other one did 9/11, allegedly. Okay. Antifa is also just an ideology. No, Antifa is an organization, and I'm all for going after those organizations. The other thing in that report, it starts using the word anarchist, and anarchist is not a bad word. Anarchist is, I think most of our founding fathers would have been anarchist for the most part. The Sons of Liberties, the anti-federalists are which is crazy that like Antifa, anti-federalist, Antifa. That's what I should be. I should be Antifa. Instead of Antifa, Antifa, anti-federalist. That's what I would do. Alpha gets all the love because he says the right things. I could come in here and be like, those damn radical Islamists. Okay. And then you're going to get everybody's attention. I'm going to be like, yeah, those damn radical Islamists. What are you going to do about them? First Amendment. First Amendment. By the way, we've got radical Christians. We've got radical Jews. We've got radical atheists. We've got radical everything. We just want to focus on the Islam thing because that's what we've been brainwashed to do since the 1970s. We've been brainwashed that radical Islam extremism is somehow going to destroy our country since the 1970s. And then it just went full-blown retard after 2001. So CannCon, is Satanism a religion if it wants to be? Yeah. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. CannCon is anti-fe. I don't know what that means. Oh, I got you. Anti-fe, anti-fe, anti-fe. I don't know. Opinions vary, but doesn't make you right. Sure. All right. I think we'll land the show there. Bacon is the Islamic litmus test. Oh, man. Brainwashed my ass. Actually read the damn book. Oh, the English translation? Sure. When you go learn Pashtun or you learn Farsi and then you read the book, let me know, EC. Then we can have a discussion about it. Until then, you're reading. That's like reading the Schofield Bible as the determining factor of Christianity. And then you go and we'll be all Judeo-Christian for the rest of our lives. Everything for Israel, right? You'll Ted Cruz the shit out of it if you read the Schofield Bible. Also, the Bible that we read is been interpreted and translated dozens of times. So unless you learn read Latin, same thing. All right. I think I'm going to land that there. You are so condescending. So are you. You Fretman Dan, you literally sit there and condescend me on every show. And the one time I'm focused on you, I'm condescending. There's other shows, dude. You can watch other shows. You can watch. I believe in the First Amendment. If you don't believe in the First Amendment, or if you do believe in the First Amendment, but you want to ban a religion, you don't believe in the First Amendment. You don't believe in it. So there we go. There you go. You either believe in the First Amendment fully and you're an absolutist, or you pick and choose what you want until that gets whittled away, and eventually the only thing left is you and your beliefs, or until they come after you and your beliefs, and then you're like, hey, somebody stand up for my beliefs. I got nothing. And then it's like, damn. It is what it is. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Appreciate you. Let's talk a little bit about. Wait, no, we can't. Hold on here. What is going on? I do have first principles. I have my principles. I am a free speech absolutist. I'm a constitutional absolutist, although I will rail upon the post Reconstruction amendments. I will crush those, even though that you still have to abide by them. Until you undo them, you still have to abide by them begrudgingly. Laws, not so much. I think you can nullify laws. Jury nullification is a thing. I am all for jury nullification. This is fun. I don't see, did Fretman Dan ever respond? Because I made him mad. I don't think I'm right about everything, asshole. That's my opinion. That's what he said. You think you're right about everything, asshole. I'm not calling him an asshole. He called me an asshole. I don't think I'm right about everything. I'm a free speech. I'm a First Amendment absolutist. If you ban Islam, you are not a First Amendment absolutist. Period. I am right about that. Can you ban Sharia law? Yes, you can. That's why we don't have. Well, Texas now has the 10th Amendments, the 10 Commandments up in their schools, but that doesn't mean that you have to follow them. They're not allowed to actually teach them in the school, which, Brian, need to read the chat more, Brian. Islam is a religion. Oh my God. Islam is a religion. Islam is not a religion. Okay. That's the level that I am going to check out on. Islam is not a religion. You called me an asshole because Islam is not a religion. But I watched people pray to their God, not the God I believe in, but I watched people pray to their God every day, more than most Christians that I know, by the way. Just going to throw that out. Islam is not a religion. That is the one thing that still triggers conservatives more than anything. We got to kill the Muslims. Reading the chat does make it fun. I should tell Alpha to leave every day early. All right, we'll land there. For real this time. See you guys in about 2 hours on Badlands Book Club.
Last winter, the world met Madame Margie, the moistureless. But while Badlandia banded together at Gart, she evolved. While deep in her lair, she uncovered 4 sacred instruments of hydration. The lip balm, the lotion, the tallow bar, and the new stainless steel gua sha. Together, they wage war. Flaking has fallen, roughness retreats, dryness trembles, and among the rebels, Mother's good boy. But elsewhere in Badlandia, rebellion grows, the beards remain.
Shave them all off.
Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code Mama's Boy for 20% off your Mother's Day bundle. Can't choose the right sacred instruments for your mother? Offer them all with an e-gift card. For softness, for victory, for moms.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA.